Did you know that the average person changes jobs 12 times in their lifetime, according to the 2019 Bureau of Labor and Statistics survey? Where my brain initially goes when I hear this statistic is how much of a mess that could be creating by not handling each of these changes properly. Depending on the decisions that you're making with each of those job changes, you could be either getting yourself ahead each time or you can be hurting your long term savings. I'm Amber Knips, wealth advisor at Sweet Financial Partners, located in Fairmont and Jackson, Minnesota. And I specialize in working with high net worth individuals as they navigate life's biggest transitions, both expected and unexpected. We believe everyone has the right to realize that their dreams are possible, and we use that as a focus on everything we do when we're working with clients and helping them plan for their future. I had a conversation recently with someone who was looking for guidance, and she has just gone through a major transition and was trying to get a handle on her finances. Her husband fell into that average. He had several jobs over his career, so that meant he participated in several 401k plans. And for him, he never took the time to do anything with those old plans. He felt keeping them separate really wasn't a big deal because he knew where they all were. So he had a system that worked for them and it worked well until he died. And then that was when I met her. She was the exact opposite of him. She did not like keeping track of everything, and she was completely overwhelmed. The amount of time it took to get all of those plans consolidated into her name was a huge burden. She had to call each of those 1-800 numbers, sit on hold, tell them what happened, fill out paperwork to get an account opened, to be in her name, and then wait for everything to process, which isn't quickly sometimes. And now she had to keep track of everything herself. It was a lot of phone calls and time that she could have been taken doing anything else, and things that could have been avoided by just being a little bit more proactive after each one of those job changes. So sometimes, even though things work in the day to day, it doesn't mean that that's always going to be a case and that it will continue to work in the long term. I'd actually read the other day that 58% of adults want to change careers, but the risk of starting over is a barrier. And maybe the risk of some of those different things too. Change is hard. Brian Sweet, founder of Sweet Financial, gave me some advice many, many years ago, and I think about it often, is that things that make you uncomfortable help make you grow. And sometimes going through a big change can be really good to help you continue to move forward and grow and uncover new possibilities. What we'll go through in this video is how to help you transition smoothly from your old job to your new job and make the most of all the financial opportunities as you continue to grow. Leaving an old job and starting a new one can be really confusing, and it can seem like a lot. You don't want to leave any money on the table by not taking full advantage of any employee benefits your current job offers. But you'll also want to make sure you get paid correctly. Make the most of your benefits and your employee benefits and any perks as well. What we'll go through today is the key considerations to make sure that you understand from a financial perspective when you're starting a new job. So the first one is understanding your employee benefits. And this means having a full understanding of all the benefits your new job has to offer and making sure that you're making any negotiations prior to accepting the job. So starting a new job can be a whirlwind, and it can feel like there's so many changes that sometimes things fall through the cracks. Companies offer a variety of employee benefits that could make even a lower paying job with good benefits more enticing than a higher paying job with no benefits. So some of the common employee benefits would be health insurance, disability coverage, 401k match, paid time off, sick leave, life insurance, and maybe your head's spinning by me saying those already. But not having a full understanding or taking the time to fully understand your benefits could mean that maybe you're leaving something on the table. So in this video, we'll only scratch the surface on some of the considerations when you're starting a new job. But what's great for you is we've created a detailed checklist for you to download for free to make sure nothing gets missed and your transition goes smoothly. So click the link below to access that. Which leads us great into our next tip, figure out what to do with your old employer savings plan. So if you had a 401k plan through your former employer, Now is the time to consider what should you do with it. So typically we recommend waiting maybe around a month after terminating employment before you make any changes. One, this gives you time to weigh out your options, as well as having any residual contributions from your employer, any from your last paycheck, get deposited into your account. So what we find is that many people put off making a decision of what to do with those old 401k funds, but simply leaving them behind is not always the best option. So what happens is then you fail to monitor those accounts maybe as closely as you should, and out of sight, out of mind sometimes happens and is the easiest strategy. But the investment strategy you had put in place previously might not be the best one as you continue to move forward. So a main benefit of the 401k is the employer match. And if the company offers one, that's definitely something that's valuable. So once you leave a job, you are no longer receiving a match. So there may be some better investment vehicles out there once you're no longer employed. Oftentimes we see maybe limited investment options or some strict withdrawal rules within those 401k plans. So if you're no longer receiving the match, it's often best a time to consider, what should you do with those 401k funds and maybe taking out. So there's 4 different choices you can do with your old plan. One, you can keep your money where it's at. I do want to note that depending on the plan, this is not always an option. There's usually an amount where they make you take your funds out if you're below that. So that's something worth checking into. Number 2 is move your money out and take into your new employer's plan. It's a great option to keep things consolidated and simplified. Option number 3, roll your savings from your 401k into an IRA. So combining retirement accounts gives you lots of flexibility in your decision making and to ensure that your assets are supporting your goals. So oftentimes this makes sense if you want to further diversify and go deeper into the planning to make sure that you're on track. And number 4, my least favorite, but cashing out your retirement plan balance. So this might be tempting to have the money now, but there can be some serious downsides. The first is hefty taxes and penalties, and now you'll miss out on any future growth on those funds. So there are different times where this may make sense, but oftentimes it does not. And another thing to consider is if you have any deferred compensation plans, make sure that you're carefully reviewing the vesting schedule and distribution schedule before you do make any changes with those plans. And that's a great time to tag in a trusted advisor to say, what am I doing? Which one makes the most sense for me and how I want to plan moving forward? Same with any stock options, is you really want to carefully review those different vesting shares and exercise periods and make sure that you're not leaving anything on the table and making the best decisions for you. So like I had mentioned, a trusted advisor can help you evaluate all your options, sort through the logistics because it can be confusing, and make the decision that works best for you. They can also provide some guidance on my key point next, which is set up contributions to your new employer savings plan. So if you have access to a new plan within your new enrollment period at your new job, like a 401k, 403b, 457, you should set up contributions as soon as you're eligible. So at the very least, contribute just the employer match to make sure that you're getting, all of the different funds on the table. So failing to at least put the match in is basically like saying, no, I don't want that extra pay, or I don't want that pay increase. You would never say no thanks to your boss if they did offer you a salary increase. So why wouldn't you partake in the employer match? If your income's changing with your new job, maybe you're earning a higher salary, consider this a really great place to put that additional income. And I know that you're thinking, well, gosh, Amber, I had a lot of other places I wanted to put that, but there's a huge opportunity with putting a little bit extra in every year, and especially right away. You're not used to having those funds. It's a great time to be a little proactive versus letting them get absorbed into your regular cash flow. So this is also a great time to build up that emergency fund if it's gotten a little low, or maybe it's not quite where you want it to be. But ideally increasing that contribution that you're putting into your employer plan every year. Maybe you say every raise I get every year, I put that percentage in. or I do 1% every year. That's a great strategy to live by. Doing a little bit more now means that you're creating even more possibilities for yourself in retirement. But in order to do that, you need to be intentional about your spending, your saving, and not letting another year go by before you make any changes. So think about your life in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. What would you want to have accomplished to feel that you made good financial progress towards your goals? And that's a really great thing to discuss with your advisor too, saying, I wrote those down. Now, what do I need to be doing today to make sure that I'm getting there? Because I know this is no shock, but time goes fast and you don't want to get to that point. Find that note that you had written those things down and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't accomplish any of those things that were important to me. So making sure that you're taking advantage of one of your biggest underutilized assets, which is time. And it's amazing the power that compound interest can have on your savings over time. So you're really doing yourself a disservice by not taking advantage of that. And the next item is in regards to health savings accounts. So carefully reviewing the healthcare plans offered through your new employer. And if you're given a choice that has a health savings account, making sure that you're taking advantage of that if it makes sense with your, current health circumstances. So a health savings account, or HSA, is a tax-advantaged fund where you can save for future medical expenses. So with an HSA, you have the ability to contribute right through payroll, which is great because you don't have to make the decision each month to put the funds in. So HSA accounts actually have a triple tax savings, which is fabulous. You get a tax deduction when you contribute, they grow tax-free, and as long as they're used for medical expenses, you get to withdraw tax-free down the road as well. Best practices that you're not spending from your HSA account on a regular basis, that you can just use regular cash flow to cover any of your medical expenses. That's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck because it's growing tax-free and it's really creating a buffer for a potential transition point later on in life. So maybe that's helping bridge the gap if you're in between employers. And you can use it to pay COBRA or just to cover expenses more tax efficiently in retirement. And another thing I want to mention is that if you had an HSA with your old employer and now you're going to have a new HSA with your new employer, you can actually roll those funds over. So it's a great way to keep everything simple, keep it easy, so you don't have to keep track of 2 cards, 2 balances, all of the things. And a bonus is that it makes it easy for your family if something were to happen to you. So you do have the option to leave in that old employer plan as well. Oftentimes you'll start incurring a monthly expense, but it's usually relatively low, but something that you can buy yourself a little bit of time as well. And number 5, review your new life insurance policy. So while your company's group life insurance policy at work is a really great perk, it is important to every job change, every so many years, life changes, all those different things, to review and recalculate your need for life insurance and say, is it enough for your family? Generally speaking, you should have enough life insurance to cover, between 5 to 10 times your annual salary. So typically, employer-sponsored life insurance plans are maybe 1 to 2 times your annual salary. So maybe not quite enough insurance just in that specific space. But oftentimes you can purchase a little bit extra insurance through your employer plan, and it's really low cost. And up until a certain point, you typically don't have to provide proof of insurability. So that's another really great thing to consider as well. And number 6, enlist the help of a financial professional. So whenever your financial circumstances change, great time to reach out to your trusted advisor or find a trusted advisor and just figure out, how do I navigate this situation? You may be able to get some guidance through your new employer-sponsored plan, but that's really just scratching the surface and doesn't cover all the planning needs in the ins and the outs of your tax situation as well. So if you haven't already, it's a great time to create your financial plan. So your advisor will help, create that roadmap for you and then help you stay on track to meet each of those goals, which is important. And that's why we have all of our clients go through our Dream Architect process. This helps you see any gaps in what you're currently doing, as well as see, am I saving enough? Or should you be changing some of the different types of accounts that you're saving in? So as you can see, there's some major considerations when it comes to changing jobs and making sure you're on track to reach all of your important goals. Since this video only scratched the surface, we have created a really great detailed checklist for you to download for free by clicking the link below to make sure that nothing gets missed as you transition smoothly.